Hello and welcome to my Vocaloids extra episode. This video would be about details of the Vocaloids that I did not include in my documentary series. You should watch that series if you want to learn about the history of the Vocaloid franchise, to hear release details about individual Vocaloids, or to hear examples of each Vocaloid's voices. Despite the long length of my series, it turned out a lot longer than I thought it would be when I started. There is still a lot to say about the Vocaloids, but from here on, the information will mostly be about the characters and avatars themselves rather than their singing abilities. While there are a lot of subjects I could start with, I decided that since I've already run through the list of Vocaloids, I'll begin this extra episode with the officially recognized derivatives. A derivative is a character that was created based on a Vocaloid. This term can refer to both official variations on Vocaloids or to fan-made ones. The first of the fan-made characters to become popular was born pretty much the day Miku became popular with her Levin Polka video. This small version of Miku with the strange-looking face is known as Hatsune Miku, an intentionally silly caricature of Miku. Hatsune Miku was the first of the derivative characters to become very popular, and she eventually became officially recognized by Krypton. That is, they adopted her and began to sell merchandise of her and put her in official videos. She is still quite popular with fans because she's a cute, silly character. Hatsune Miku is also noteworthy for sparking the so-called item wars, which I'll cover in the next video. Before I can talk about the next character to become adopted by Krypton, I have to tell you a story. As I said in Miku's section of my documentary series, she was surprisingly popular. Her sales shot up like an artillery shell, and by October 2007, the internet in Japan was on fire with Miku mania. But like anything that catches on as much and as quickly as she did, there are repercussions. On October 17, 2007, a Japanese TV news station broadcast a story that essentially labeled these Miku fans to be unemployed, social outcasts, and losers. Within a week, the search term Hatsune Miku would bring up no results on either Google Japan or Yahoo Japan, and the Hatsune Miku entry on the Japanese Wikipedia page was deleted. These incidences and others like them resulted in what is known as the disappearance of Hatsune Miku, would eventually lead to a song and even a novel based on the events. Obviously, Miku fans were outraged at these incidents, and they attributed them to some group in the music industry that had pull, that disliked the idea of Vocaloids and indie music. Google and Yahoo said that the reasons the searches brought up no results was because they were experiencing database issues at the time, and the Wikipedia entry had apparently been removed due to some sort of copyright problem. But this did little to dissuade Miku fans. They began to rally against this unknown anti-Miku agency. But for every person there was crying to support Miku, there was usually another telling that person to calm down or get over it. These naysayers were labeled as puppets of the music industry, and they eventually became tired of arguing with the Miku fanatics. They all began to post messages like, "Getting bored of all this, going to bed," or "I don't care anymore, see ya." This two-sided nature to the Vocaloid fan base, the side that loves them passionately, and the other side that really doesn't care about them that deeply, led people to label the Japanese Vocaloid fanbase as tsundere. This inspired one artist to personify this aspect of the Vocaloid fandom and to poke fun of these puppets in general. On November 1st, 2007, a man named Smith Hioka drew a blonde girl based off of Miku's design. She has one ponytail off to the side, and she has a leg strap to hold a cell phone, which she is never without. Her name is Akita Neru, and she became the second derivative to become officially recognized by Krypton. Her name is based on the words for to become bored and to sleep. Neru, in accordance with her name, is typically represented as being aloof and apathetic, but she is still a popular character. One of her more popular character traits shows that she is very harsh on Miku and otaku culture in Japan, but this is part of her tsundere nature. She actually likes Miku and otakus, but she can't show this honestly. It's also common to see her romantically interested in Len, although with her tsundere personality it rarely works out well. Neru has the term DEN2 tattooed on her left arm. This is supposed to represent the mysterious anti-Miku group. Neru is said to work for a company affiliated with their agency, doing a minimum wage writing job. Since Neru is not a real Vocaloid, she has no real voice bank. People have made songs with Neru, and they usually use a pitch-modified version of Miku's voice bank to do so. As I said earlier, when something becomes as big as quickly as Miku did, there are negative consequences. While there is a fraction of the Vocaloid fandom that doesn't care for Miku's voice, the majority of Vocaloid fans do like her voice. It's much of the reason she became so popular. But the Vocaloids are not singers, they are musical instruments. And it doesn't matter how nice an instrument is, if you can't play it, it will sound bad. And for every great Miku song there was at least one that was just as terrible. This flood of poor quality songs created a lot of drama within the fandom. People would upload their songs, receive little to no positive feedback, and would become upset. So an artist named Caffeine created a derivative character to represent this aspect of the fandom. Yoane Haku's name basically means to utter negative feelings, and she embodies all of the poor quality songs created with Miku's voice bank. Haku is my favorite of the derivative characters because she is, well, to be perfectly honest, a pitiable character. She is often portrayed as being depressed and lonely because of the failure she represents, and she usually has an alcoholic drink close by. I sympathize with her, I feel bad for her, and I want to make her feel better. Luckily, Haku is not always portrayed this way, and she can have fun just like the other Vocaloids. Although, in Caffeine's own words, Haku is not necessarily another Vocaloid. She was initially intended to be a human user of Miku software, someone who just couldn't use the Vocaloid software properly no matter how hard she tried. But given her similarities to Miku and the other Miku derivatives, she is often considered to be another Vocaloid by the fandom. Like Neru, she has official merchandise and she has appearances in the Vocaloid video games. And also like Neru, Haku has been given her own songs, although with Haku there is an interesting dilemma. Haku's voice is typically a modified Miku append voice bank, but this begs the question, is the song made with Haku supposed to be good? She represents the failure to use a Vocaloid properly, so her song should sound bad. But being the Haku fan that I am, I of course believe that her songs don't always have to sound bad. Here for example is Haku's version of Rolling Girl, which is my all-time favorite Vocaloid song. It is a Hatsune Miku song that basically just had its sound dropped to a lower octave, but it still sounds pretty nice. The last of the officially licensed humanoid Vocaloid derivatives is one based on Meiko. Because Miku was the first Vocaloid to have a character created specifically for her, Meiko and Kaito fans were left wondering about their ages. While the fandom settled on Kaito being an older male relatively quickly due to his deep voice, Meiko users were not so certain. Was she a teenager or an adult? Because of the introduction of the newer Japanese Vocaloids that were officially stated to be teenagers, Miku, Rin, and Gumi, Meiko fans began to lead towards Meiko being a bit older, perhaps in her early 20s. There were some other things that pushed the fandom in that direction, which I'll get to later. So Meiko is generally considered to be one of the adult female Vocaloids, and she has gained quite a few fans recently because of that. But in the wake of Miku and Rin, producers found that Meiko's deeper voice was simply not as popular with the fanbase as a whole. The public wanted younger sounding vocals, so a producer named Nanameue P joined up with others to push Meiko's voice to its limits, and create a Meiko that would be appreciated by the fans of the time. Named Sakine Meiko, this derivative is not a separate character, but rather represents what Meiko might have been had she been a real singer when she first began her career. In other words, she is Meiko's younger self, with a purported age of 16. Sakine means blooming sound, but it also has the same pronunciation as preceding sound, as in she came before Miku. I can't say how popular she became, but she was adopted by Krypton and has had merchandise made for her, as well as appearance in video games. It is said that if the player ignores her for a long time in Project Diva, Sakine Meiko will become upset at you. The final character to, as of yet, be adopted by Krypton is Takoluka. Takoluka is, well, she's an octopus. Taco means octopus in Japanese. What? Need more? Well, Takoluka is pretty simple to understand. Someday, somewhere, someone looked at my wonderful, wonderful Luca and, possibly in a drunken stupor, said to himself, you know, her hair looks like an octopus. And Takoluka was born. You have to understand that in Japan, octopods, squids, and crabs are considered to be very cute, even by girls. Despite the strange concept, Takoluka was actually very important to the development of the Vocaloid fanbase because she heralded the end of the item wars, which I will get to soon. Like Hatsune Miku, Takoluka is often depicted alongside her namesake, and she even has her own plushie. She's a very popular character because of her childlike nature, and while she is sometimes used to sing, her songs simply use a very high-pitched version of Luca's voice, and her songs are usually about eating tuna, which is Luca's favorite food. The last character I want to talk about in this segment doesn't really belong here. Not only is she not an officially recognized derivative of a Vocaloid, she's not a Vocaloid at all, but she is so popular and so commonly associated with Vocaloids that she deserves mention. Kasane Taito was originally created as an April Fool's joke to spoof the Vocaloid concept. But for some reason people took to Taito and a voice bank was created for her using a piece of software known as AtH. AtH is worth discussing in its own video, but basically AtH is a piece of software similar to the Vocaloid software, except that users can record, create, and manipulate their own voice banks. The AtH voice banks are not at all compatible with Vocaloid, and the programs have no connection in terms of development or business, but they are similar in how they're used. This AtH software allowed Kasane Taito to become the first Vocaloid, a Vocaloid-type character for the AtH software. Her first recording was done with a very early version of the AtH software, and it sounded very robotic. But Taito still became popular, and in October 2009 the AtH software underwent a major update, and her voice bank was likewise updated. Her new voice was much better than the original, and this only increased her popularity and her presence in the voice synthesizer fandoms. What may surprise people first getting into Taito is that she is not human, or a cyborg as the Vocaloids are. She is actually a chimera. She is a mixture of a human and a bat. But she's often depicted with dragon wings and a tail when in her chimera form. As for her personality, Taito is officially listed as a 31-year-old, but she acts very immature for her age. She desires attention and is a little bit tsundere, although not nearly to the degree that Neru is. She loves bread, hates to have her hair called drills, and for some reason her favorite country is Norway. Okay, well I lied about Taito being the last character I'd talk about in this video. This final character has nothing at all to do with the Vocaloids, or even voice synthesis, but her appearance continues to confuse people, so I'll address her. On December 26, 2007, an artist on Pixiv named Huke posted a piece of art he had just finished, an image of a girl he called Black Rock Shooter. A musician who was a member of the band Supercell found this image and was inspired by it to create a Hatsune Miku song about Black Rock Shooter, and that video was published in July 2008. It became extremely popular and helped develop Black Rock Shooter into its own franchise. It has had manga and even a short animation series created for it. I mention Black Rock Shooter here simply to say that she is not in any way related to Hatsune Miku. Looking at the characters side by side, there are obvious similarities in body shape and hairstyles, and while I'm sure Huke was inspired by Miku considering the time period he created his design for Black Rock Shooter, she is not a Vocaloid and she is not considered to be a Miku derivative. This is often confusing for people new to the Vocaloids, as not only does Black Rock Shooter look reminiscent of Miku, but some of the same companies are involved in producing merchandise and promotional material for both the Vocaloids and the Black Rock Shooter series, such as Good Smile Company, which creates the Nendoroid figures.